No coming back from this one. Leftist TikToker Harry Sisson's career is practically over after being horribly wrong every single time. But Tyrus wasn't having any of it because this clip from a couple months ago is now coming back to haunt Harry, especially after the Democrats lost so decisively. Take a look for yourself, and then I think you'll agree why.
Well, joining me now is the former professional wrestler and Fox News contributor Tyrus and TikTok influencer Harry Sisson. Well, welcome to both of you. Harry, I want to start by playing a little clip of you last time you appeared on my show. Who do you think the two nominees will be in the end, and who will win?
Yeah, it's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and then Joe Biden's going to win. And Piers, I'd love to chat with you after the election.
You've made a few dollars, Harry, so why don't we have a little wager? $10,000 to a charity of your choice. I say Biden can't possibly win. You think he can?
I personally don't bet on politics. I'm happy to have another bet to do something with charity. We can do something, absolutely no problem.
But you wouldn't put your money where your mouth is on Biden, then?
I don't bet on politics.
Well, I saved you $10,000 there, Harry, with your refusal to accept the bet, obviously. Welcome to back to Uncensored. I mean, you were completely wrong. Not only did Biden not stay in the race, but he certainly won't be president again. So do you accept you were completely wrong?
Yeah, I think I was going based off of publicly available information. All of the information available was that Joe Biden was staying in. He consistently told reporters he was staying in. He said, I'm the guy. And then he huddled with advisors in Delaware, saw the data, said it wasn't looking good, and made the honorable decision to bow out.
Wait, so that's all he was going by to make such a claim? Every time Harry opens his mouth, he doesn't let you forget that he's just a 21-year-old TikTok creator after all, and not someone with mature political thoughts. But you'll certainly find it here on this channel, so subscribe and hit the notification bell to be the first to see it. Now let's give Harry the benefit of the doubt for once. I dug up some polling data from earlier this year, which clearly spelled anything but good omens for Joe Biden's candidacy and re-election bid. Biden's approval ratings at the time of his campaign announcement in mid-last year hovered around an abysmally low 40%. Polls from places like NBC revealed last year that over 75% of Americans were unhappy with where the country was headed, and this is also around the time when Joe Biden's gaffes were becoming worrying more than just being good meme material. At some point, you feel like asking someone that denies all of this if they've just been living under a rock for the past 3 years, because with someone as young and naive as Harry Sisson, you can always count on him to defend the indefensible, and that's the only explanation for why he'd say something as absurd as he did here.
I've met the man as well. I've talked to him. He was fantastic. He was sharp. I had questions.
When was that?
That was in May.
He was sharp?
Yeah.
How sharp?
Very sharp. He answered
around that time he was falling off stages, he was face planting, he was tumbling
face planting. I mean,
tumbling down the steps of Air Force One, falling off bicycles. He was saying all sorts of gobbledygook in statements which the White House had to rewind. So how sharp was he?
I mean, he was great. I gave him questions he didn't have beforehand. He answered them in depth, and we had a conversation after the cameras were turned off. I had no problems then. I had no problems now. I still think Joe Biden is fit to serve. If he were the candidate, I'd still think he's fit to serve.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, Tyrus. Joe Biden is still fit to serve. I mean, the guy I watched last night doing this national address, I'm sorry, I felt it was really sad. It was elder abuse.
I think at this point, we're arguing about the wrong thing. Whether he's fit to serve or not fit to serve, history was made in the sense that the donors basically said no more money.
Right.
And they don't do that because they think, oh, the polling shows you're down this month. So the ugliness of this is that Joe Biden's legacy is going to be affected because of what happened. The policies and stuff that we're running historically didn't ever fit Joe, which people raise their eyebrows to. And then you're seeing all this cover up of how sharp he was, and that's a interesting word because it's used a lot. And I always find when different people all use the same word, it's a talking point. And that's the problem. We need to get away from talking points. I'm glad that he stepped down because I took no joy in criticizing speeches from somebody who was doing the best they could.
Tyrus dismantled that beautifully. Sometimes all you have to do is let your opponent talk and trust the audience's intelligence to be able to see through the nonsense. Otherwise, we're all aware of how loud and assertive Tyrus can get if he wants to be. But you know why that's more interesting? Harry Sisson's basically overplaying the narrative even further than the Democrats themselves did, remembering that around the time Biden dropped out of the race after the disastrous debate night against Donald Trump, Most of the Democrat Party, as well as the left-wing media figures, had finally shed the mask of pretending Biden wasn't senile and a liability for the party electorally. And once that happened, there was no need to play along anymore because the cat was finally out of the bag, yet Harry Sisson continued to be one of the names that bizarrely still insisted on parroting the same old retired party narrative.
Then he said this about passing the torch. Let's listen to this clip.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
No, I'm sorry, Harry. That was just a blatant lie. He didn't decide it was time to pass the torch only the day before he quit. He was absolutely gung-ho. I'm going to be running. I'm going to be president. I'm going to win 4 more years, blah, 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 blah. Even in the speech last night, he said he thinks he still has it in him to do another term of office. But that's not what happened. What happened was the Democrat grandees, Barack Obama, the Clintons, Chuck Schumer, Hollywood stars like George Clooney penning op-ed pieces in newspapers and so on, they all collaborated with the donors, as Tyrus said, who yanked the money, to torch him. He was torched by his own side. That's what happened, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's a combination of things. I think that there was obviously concern among party elites, you might call them. I don't know if that's the word.
But well, there was a concern. There was a poll came out on Sunday morning saying he was 7 points down in Michigan.
Right.
As Frank Luntz said, one of the 3 crucial swing states. And at that point, bang, the rope was pulled, right?
But it's also it was also his decision. He could have stayed in the race and said, like, I'm the nominee. I got the votes. I won the primary. I'm going to get the delegates. I'm going to be the nominee. But he looked at the data and made the honorable decision, said, no, I'm not going to.
But is he that honorable to do it now? I mean,
It sounds great, but let's be honest. Nancy Pelosi walked in and said, we can do it.
The easy way or the hard way?
The hard way was Article 25.
You know what?
Precisely. Even Joe Biden's eventual ouster became unavoidable after 2 important incidents, which was the debate night against Donald Trump and then the assassination attempt against Trump that reinvigorated the Republican base like nothing else. And if anything, I think people should have realized by now that they were always wrong to take Biden at his word. First, it was him claiming he only wanted to run for a single term and then walk that back. Then he promised he'd stay for the race against Trump before dropping out a few weeks later. And then more recently, we even saw Joe Biden pardon his son Hunter Biden despite years of promises that he'd never do it because, quote, no one is above the law except for his son. There's a lot of people apparently very late in catching up to those lies, and then there's people like Harry Sisson that still have blinders on. Here's what he wrote on X a few months ago, throwing all of his weight and trust behind the idea that Joe Biden would never pardon his son before leaving office, saying, quote, riddle me this, MAGA, how has Biden weaponized the Justice Department if his own son is on trial, and he's saying he will not pardon him if convicted? Your whole argument kind of crumbles, doesn't it? Embarrassing. Harry seems to have an uncanny ability to just twist past statements into present events, even if they contradict, and he's apparently started doing that on TikTok by rallying his followers into a new resistance against Donald Trump.
Here's the good news about the 2024 presidential election, and there's not much. We're all very sad right now. We're all very disappointed. We're all very shocked. But there's one piece of good news that I can think about right now, and it's that the resistance continues. The resistance against Donald Trump and their awful Republican policy continues. The Republicans have this idea in their head right now that you, me, and everybody else are just going to lay down. We've given up. We're not doing it anymore. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. We're still here. We're still fighting. We mourn for a week. We get our thoughts together. We recalibrate, and we get back out there. Like, if Republicans think that women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ plus community are just going to sit down and let them do their thing, no. Sorry, not happening. And here's the thing. I know for a fact that if Donald Trump tries to hurt the American people, make our lives harder, we will give him hell. We will make his presidency impossible if he tries to pass policy and legislation that takes rights away from people. I know you want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. And we're going to do it together. So let's not lie down. Let's get back in the game. Man, I'm so hyped up and excited. Let's do this together, man.
It sounds exactly like what a young and politically naive mind would say, and maybe he can't be blamed for it. He's likely going to shift his views as he gets older. That is, of course, unless he's doing this on behalf of a broader plan. As many have alleged, this 21-year-old TikTok star out of nowhere rising to fame on the platform, and for some reason making multiple appearances with Piers Morgan, and I think it became clear why when some allegations came forward against Harry himself that he was supposedly a paid DNC propagandist for the Democrats to reach a Gen Z audience. That's an idea that has been floated by activist CJ Pearson as well, almost in response to a confusion as to why this kid is getting so much attention to begin with, despite having little to no political substance.
Do you think one of those influencer sources paid off is Harry Sisson?
Definitely. I think Harry Sisson is one of those. I think the FEC records show, that he's a paid shill. One of the one of the biggest things that I think exposed him for was after the Biden debate. He said Biden won the debate. No one in their right mind thought Biden won that debate. Biden didn't think he won the debate. Biden didn't even know he was at the debate, actually, much less. So it's incredible to me that he was able to say that with a straight face. But, it's Harry Sisson, so.
Even David Pakman, who I just had on, said Biden lost that debate. So that's when you know he's paid off.
Those are still allegations, of course, but Harry Sisson is still a curious case of someone that took politics to TikTok. Whatever you make of that, perhaps the more dissenting political voices we have online, the better. The exchange you saw with Tyrus, however, revealed that he still has a very long way to go before he can become an actual opinion maker or political pundit. But let me know in the comments what you think and share this across your media to get a feel for what others are thinking. As we go through a seismic shift in our politics, I guess we'll all have to develop a sharper eye for who's telling the genuine truth versus who's just in it for the clout.